Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Dentistry Unmasked. My name is David Rice, and I'm back again with
Hey everybody, Pam Maragliano-Muniz. What's up, David?
All is Well in Florida. How about by you?
Everything is, well, okay, no, everything's crazy here right now in Salem because it's Halloween. It's like, even though it's not Halloween, it's Halloween. So it's like just mayhem up in here.
Ooh, you got all your candy ready to roll?
It's not so much candy as I'm hoping to get through my whole career without running anybody over because people just like walk into the street. So for me, my win is not trick or treating or any of that stuff. It's just getting through the month with work, but also coming and going from the office without running anybody over.
Totally fair.
It's the small things. Okay, this week's topic. You guys are going to be horrified. Okay. So this is how I used to do things back in the day, right? So you start off, you're a student, and then you're a resident, and then you start working. And for me, it was like budgeting sort of meant if there was money in my account, I could buy it. And if there wasn't any money in my account, I couldn't buy it. And so I lived and died by my debit card. I used my debit card for literally everything. I know, look at you, you're disgusted. If you guys are watching this, you see like the judgment and the disgust on these two wonderful people's faces. I know, I know. And then I only started using credit cards. I had credit cards, but because I didn't want to get into debt or get into something I couldn't handle, I only started really using credit cards when I got my office because I was told by our guest this week that there's benefits to using specific credit cards given my scenario. So this week, I am so excited to introduce Howie Rappaport. He's like literally like one of my most favorite people on the planet. Howie, welcome.
Thank you, Pam. And thank you for the nightmare scenarios of you using a debit card because we don't do that anymore.
No, we don't do that anymore. But I know that, I mean, that's what I think a lot of people do. And that's almost like how they budget things. So let's go like kick it back to, I don't even know when we first met. It was years ago. And I think I was like, no, I use a debit card. Like it just sort of is how it works. And you're like, nope, we don't do that. Can you just break it down as to why, all of the reasons why that's a poor choice?
Sure. Um, so let's first start with the premise of free money. I think that's a good way to do it. Everyone likes free money. And by free money, I don't mean a tax return because I've heard that called free money before. Oh, you get money back from the government. No, you've given the government money and they're just paying you back. That's not free money. Free money is money coming to you when you're not doing anything different to acquire it. And what I mean by that is, let's use a credit card as an example, since we're talking about that. There are credit cards out there for every scenario you can think of. If you want to travel and earn travel rewards, if you want to earn cash, if you want to earn rewards to help you buy a car, if you want to earn rewards to help fund a college savings account, um, the whole premise is for everything you're spending, you should be earning something. And if you're using a debit card, with very few exceptions, you're not earning anything. And you're actually taking money out of your account in real time, leaving you with less cash than you had earlier in the day. The basic premise and the real value of a credit card in both personal and business is the fact that you're getting an interest-free loan for 30 days on the assumption that your credit card has a 30-day period where you make any charges, you have that grace period, the statement comes in, it tells you when it's due, and you make the payment. Now, let's be very clear about it. This is not an interest-free loan for the long term. This is a 30-day grace period where you're going to pay your balance off in full. So if you can't use a credit card and pay that balance off in full every single month, then you shouldn't be using a credit card because any rewards and any bonuses are going to be negated by the interest that you're going to pay for revolving those balances month over month. And that's where credit card companies make a ton of money. People like that are called revolvers. We don't want to be revolvers. So you were using a debit card, which is great because you know how much cash you have on hand at any given point, right? Here's my cash. Here's what I spent. I can spend it. Great. But unless your receivables work the same way, where you have that money coming in instantly, which you probably don't, you probably have some form of terms of when payments are due and when money's coming in and when money's going out. So a credit card is going to line up with that really well because it's going to give you a little bit of flexibility. But more importantly, using the credit card is actually going to earn you benefits. So I'll stop there. What questions do we have about credit cards before I start going down the crazy world of you can earn this, you can earn that, you can do this, you can do that? Um, do we have anything we want to address before I go down that rabbit hole?
I
Come
think
on,
so.
Pam. I see it.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, you already mentioned a couple of different types of benefits. Some I actually had never heard of. I mean, I don't have kids, so I don't have to save for college, thankfully. But there's benefit. I mean, how do you even know what benefits are out there so you know what credit card to obtain?
So, unfortunately, you have to be really good at being able to decipher marketing speak and understand the benefits that are available on a given card and be able to compare them to other cards. And let's go through an example. And I think this is a really common example. I use my credit card because I want to travel for free, or I want to travel at a discounted rate, or I want to improve my travel. So either I'm not paying something, I'm paying less, or instead of flying coach, maybe I'm flying premium economy or business class or first class. And that all comes down to goals, which are really the number one thing. And you need to treat credit card rewards just like you would treat any other financial product that you have. So if you have a financial advisor and they help you with retirement planning and they help you with financing and figuring out how you need to manage money coming in and out, how you plan for retirement, you want to do the same thing with credit card rewards because they are just another form of income, but it's not income. It's non-taxable. So the rewards you get from a credit card are non-taxable events because they are considered rebates, and rebates are non-taxable. So let's talk through some benefits and let's focus just on the travel side of things because that seems to be the most popular. And we'll do some of the more basic ones, but let's go through this one first. So a great example is, say you happen to fly Delta Airlines. Do you know anyone like that, Pam?
I do. His name is David Rice.
I'm a Delta loyalist.
I am
Okay.
too.
And if you're a Delta loyalist, Delta has 7 different credit cards that they issue as co-brand products with American Express. And so you'll get a credit card, and if it's a Delta credit card, it's going to be issued by American Express, and it'll have the Delta logo on it. And so there's different benefits that are afforded to each of those cards based on the card you have. So there are consumer cards, right? Good for me. And there are business cards, good for anyone that's got a business. And the nice thing is you can have both consumer cards and business cards. So it's not necessarily that you're going to double dip, but you can keep your business expenses on your business card, your personal expenses on your personal card. And when it comes time to cash in those rewards, they're going to all get deposited into your same Sky Miles account. So you're earning them all in one account. So it's not like you have points A in one account, points B in another, and then you have to figure out a way to transfer them. Nope. American Express and Delta make that easy. So yeah, you've got the card and you're earning your Sky Miles, but which card's the right one for you? So are you traveling often? Do you want lounge access? Do you want a better chance at an upgrade? Do you want companion certificates? Do you want an easier way to keep your medallion status every year? Right? So it's figuring out what's the right one for you. And I say you've got to understand the marketing speak, but American Express and Delta do a good job of explaining the different benefits. And this is where it really comes back to your goals again. So are you traveling a couple of times a month, or are you traveling once a month? Are you checking a bag all the time? Do you really care about those upgrades to first class? Or are you just going to buy first class because you don't travel a lot? And so based on what's most important for you, that'll dictate the right card with Delta and American Express. But say maybe you dabble every once in a while with another airline. And it's just because you're going to a city where maybe Delta doesn't fly as much, or Delta doesn't fly there at all, and you have to fly United, or you have to fly American, or JetBlue, or maybe the flights are just more convenient. Instead of a Delta American Express card, you might want to look at the Platinum card from American Express, which has other benefits. And so this is where you can really start to go down a rabbit hole, but it comes back to what's most important to you and what are your goals, right? Is that lounge access most important? Is having a concierge available that you can call when you need help with the dining reservation important? Is it the ability to redeem your points on different airlines? So I could go for hours and hours talking about the differences in just the American Express cards alone. But it's a good thing to know that the first thing you need to do is set your goals and understand what those are. And if it's travel related, look at the airline that maybe you travel most with, or that's your preferred airline. The hotels, same exact thing. And again, it's figuring out what's most important for you, right? Say you love Four Seasons properties. Four Seasons doesn't have a credit card, so you're kind of out of luck. But if you love Marriott and you love Westin and you love St. Regis, you could get a Marriott credit card and you could put your Marriott charges on your Marriott card. You could put your Delta charges on your Delta card. I used to be a sales engineer and I traveled a ton for work, and that's what I did. I had my Delta card for my Delta expenses, my Marriott card for my Marriott expenses. I won't tell you about the other 7 or 8 cards that I had, but just a very basic strategy that was important for me to meet my goals.
I love that so much. And Pam, I'm hoping I have the right cards, but I think I'm in a good spot.
Yeah, I know I do because I have a great resource that I can call and be like, what do I do? Tell me what to do. And he's told me. And
I,
thankfully, when I applied for them, I got them and we're good.
what do you have over there? I feel like this is like a go fish.
Oh my gosh. So my two like go-tos, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess I have another go-to, but my major go-tos are Amexes. I've got the Delta Amex, and this is a flex. So I'm sorry. I don't do this often, but I'm pretty proud of this one. It's made out of a piece of an airplane. Like, come on. How cool is that?
You mean duct tape? It's made out of duct tape? Oh no, actually.
I'm actually guessing it's made out of composite.
Yeah. It would only be duct tape if it was a different airline.
Yes.
We won't
No.
mention their names.
Well, the better part is its first flight was 420,
Cool.
1989. Last flight was 10/9/17. Has its registration number, its Boeing number, and it flew 66 million miles. And now
Whoa.
it rides with me everywhere. Little credit card. It's probably getting more miles with me than it did in the air.
I love that card.
Yeah.
I don't
And then
have
I've
that
got
one.
platinum. What do you have?
So I think I'm doing okay, Howie. So I've got my Sky Miles card with Delta and Amex. And like, is everyone smiling but you purple? So that was key.
No,
And
that's
then
good. I like that.
I like that one. And then, I've got my platinum card because I'm an experienced guy. I want all my upgrades, but I also want to, you mentioned earlier how like having a concierge to me is phenomenal to be able to pick up the phone, not when everything's going well. I mean, that's nice too, but when something's going wrong and everybody's panicking and you just pick up the phone and say, "Hey, help." And before everyone's even off a flight, you're ready to roll.
Yeah, I think that's something that is overlooked. Right. You think of a card and you think of just kind of the core benefits, right? Okay, it earns these rewards. It gives me access to this lounge. But there's a whole bunch of other ancillary benefits that you'll see on different cards, whether it's a concierge, whether it's access to concert tickets a week
Yes.
before it's open to the general public. Um, or
Wait a
if it has
minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
I've got one for you too. Go for it.
Are we
what?
talking about Taylor Swift?
Well, so that's a different bank, but yes, Taylor Swift did do a little thing with Capital One, and my wife actually got tickets through that promotion to go see Taylor Swift in Indianapolis. Now, long story short, this is a makeup because she went to Vienna earlier this summer, and those shows were canceled. So this is a makeup. So it was kind of nice for it to be able to happen for her. Um, but yeah, different credit cards have partnerships with different ticket sellers. And sometimes you'll get access, 3 days or 5 days or a week before the general public, or they'll have special promotions that you can enter to get tickets as well, just for being a card member.
Smiling bigger, aren't you,
To be
Pam?
part of this. Yes, I know. Crazy. So
It's
I'm
awesome. I
sorry.
will tell you, we've gone to different cities and literally I've called up Josh and Josh says, I'm like, hey, I'm coming in, next week to XYZ. And he's like, oh, okay, let me just check out what's open for you. And within minutes, he's like, here's sell your options. I'm like, that's insane. Thank you.
And which
It,
card is that with?
The platinum.
and they've
Nice.
built up a travel profile for you. So they know what you like, they know where you like to stay, right? And they're giving you options based on what's important to you. It's kind of nice that they can do that on that side because then when you call up, they already know what's important to you.
That's so true. That's so true. It's funny. I'm a Marriott guy, but I choose to book most of I book everything with one of my two cards. But to your point, when I call, he's like, "Oh, I see where you normally stay." He recommends which Marriotts I should stay in based on not only like quality of experience, but also he's able to be like, I know you think you want to stay in this particular property, but if you stay in this particular luxury property, like you're going to get this upgrade and this upgrade and this upgrade. So, do you want to stay there? I'm like, oh yes, just give me all the goodies because it's hard, right? Japan travel's hard.
Travel's hard,
Absolutely.
but it's so much less hard when there's just modern conveniences that make travel better. And so I don't know. I always tell how he's created a monster. When it comes to traveling, it's like it doesn't usually happen that I'm not upgraded. So when I'm not, I'm like offended. I'm like, wait, what? How is this possible? This can't be.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's pretty amazing that the rewards are not even just once in a while. They're actually pretty routine, which is awesome.
For sure, for sure. Well, I think I told you this. I had that whole Delta Airlines Porsche experience a couple weeks ago, and it was just so cool. Like, it's those little things that make travel so much better. Like, oh, I'm gonna have to sprint through Atlanta's airport 14 miles away, or no, there's a car waiting for me. Thank you guys. That was amazing.
It's nice when unexpected surprises happen. And the smart thing is, right, all the major airlines have started doing this, even internationally as well. Like Lufthansa does this, United does this, where they will have some form of car service available for top tier elite members on a tight connection. When they can offer it, they'll do it. And that's really how you truly build loyalty,
Yeah,
right? You deliver something that no one expected. Um, and if you can do it consistently, uh, you get past a lot of the little hiccups along the way. So that if for some reason you do miss a flight with Delta or you were unable to get something one time, you still have that really positive memory. Um, and so I think that's, from a Delta side of things, looking at different airlines, I think that's one thing that Delta does really well. Um, but another thing just to kind of think about on the credit card side of things, right? Say your focus isn't travel, right? And I know we can talk plenty about travel because travel is a really easy way to maximize rewards through credit cards. But there are also just really simple approaches you can take. And at a bare minimum, and this is what I say to anyone that I talk to when it comes to rewards, you need to be earning at least 2% cash back on everything. That's the bare minimum because you can do that with a credit card with no annual fee and you can get a really high limit on it based on your needs of your business and on your personal side of things. And so if you are earning rewards that you don't value at a total of 2% cash back for every dollar you're spending, you need to consider something else. And it can get really hard to do that valuation with miles because you might think, well, I'm earning a mile here, but I redeem them and I get this much value out of it. And so there can be a lot of fuzzy math that happens. But you can really start running numbers of saying, would I pay $25,000 for that flight? No. But can the
Mhm.
miles get me there to do it? Yes. Okay, so there's a lot of experiential value there. But if someone doesn't have the desire or need to travel, you can very easily earn 2% cash back on every transaction. And if you're using a debit card, that's money you're just leaving on the table. And so that's why I call it free money, as long as you're paying your bill every month.
Yeah, I don't want to think about how much money I've left on the table over all of the years and years and years of my poor little debit card use. I barely even use my debit card now. It's like pretty much never. So it's interesting that we go from, and I guess it's different too, even as a dentist, you go from a student and a resident and it's just different from once you're practicing. You're not as concerned about if you have the money every month to pay your credit card bill, unless you buy something crazy. So, I mean, let's be real. We've done that once and twice, but I feel like, or more than that, but whatever. I mean, let's be honest, where you have to pay it off, in a couple of months. But I feel like, yeah, no, it's a big deal. And I think it's something we need to think about, especially as you're getting into your profession and getting used to now getting a regular paycheck, that obviously how we pay things, we should be thinking about. Also, it's funny because I feel like what you just described, Howie, is what we do in dentistry, right? Don't we try to create an experience that exceeds somebody's expectations so that you have a relationship and a trust with yourself as a business owner, or with a practice, or if you own multiple practices, with your brand? It's really nice to be able to be on the receiving end of that once in a while, wouldn't you think?
Big
Oh, I
time.
mean, for me, 100%, right? Those little things go a long way in life. I think an analogy that I always make to kind of food service. I'm a big foodie. I love to eat. I live to eat, right? The whole purpose of living is to eat, right? That's how I look at things. Um, you can go and have a meal and have an okay meal, but if service is out of the park, amazing, you're probably going to go back to that restaurant. If you have a really good meal, right? Not the best ever, but a really good meal, and the service is horrible, you're probably not going to go back there again. And so really it is that experience where the little things can be forgiven, and little hiccups and little mistakes can really be put by the side if you can just deliver on a great overall experience for someone.
So obviously my goals and David's goals are kind of aligned. So I feel like our situations with our credit cards are kind of similar. But there are people out there who have different goals. And how do you know that your goals, whether you even realize that you have them or not, can be achieved or be supported via the credit card that you select to use? So how do you even know what's out there? Can you like call up Amex and be like, hey, do you have this benefit? Or is it a Google search? Like, how do you even know?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's really, really complicated because there are so many different banks that issue so many different credit cards. Um, you name the bank, they issue a credit card. They have their own rewards programs. They have their own mechanisms to allow you to redeem them. The most lucrative rewards you're probably going to see across the biggest banks. You're going to see it with Chase. You're going to see it with American Express. You're going to see it with Citibank, Bank of America. The large national and international banks are going to have the most diverse credit card portfolios. That's not to say that there's not going to be a regional bank that has an amazing card, right? Not the case. You'll absolutely find them. But in general, I try to take the 80/20 rule kind of into play with almost every decision I make. And if you look at the big banks, so you're looking at American Express, you're looking at Chase, Bank of America, Citibank, US Bank or Barclays Bank, and you just look at the cards that they offer, I think the important thing is to try to figure out what's important to you first. Goals are going to dictate everything, right? Just like any financial decision you're going to make, you need to have a goal. And if you're not sure what that goal is, you've got to try to figure out a way to come up with what it is. And your goals can change, right? And I think this is an important thing. You can absolutely start down the path and get a 2% cashback credit card because you're doing better than nothing. And in fact, you're doing better than most just by doing that. And what we're talking about is then trying to say, okay, well, how can I get from the top 80% to the top 95%, 96%, right? What's the threshold on how much time and effort you want to put into it, right? Pam just reaches out to me and I say, okay, Pam, what are we doing? What's the plan? What do we need to do? Okay, you want to keep this card. We're going to change this card. You need to add this card. Your husband needs to get this card. This is how everything's going to line up based on what we've spoken about. And it's just because I'm a resource that's been doing this for 20 plus years. But don't ever be afraid to say, I'm not sure, and talk to someone that's been doing this for a while. Get feedback from other people. Maybe someone loves their Marriott card and puts literally everything on it. And if that's not for you, at least you understand their perspective, and then maybe that helps you define your perspective a little bit more. So I always say, don't be afraid to ask someone. And if you've got someone like me or someone like David or someone like Pam, we're probably going to very enthusiastically talk about our cards, talk about the rewards we get out of them, and we'll say, yes, this is the greatest. You should absolutely do this. But then if someone says, but I don't fly this airline or I don't stay at that hotel, okay, look at something that lines up better with that. But this is how it works for me. So I'd encourage people just to ask those questions. But when in doubt, a 2% card is not a bad way to start.
That's really great advice because, I think on social media, I see all the time young dentists are starting off. They buy a practice, they do a startup practice, and they, of course, throw out to a group of random strangers, like, what's the best card to get? And everybody has a very strong opinion, unless you kind of take a step back and say, like, well, the best card for you might not be the card that's best for me, but look for these qualities. And I love that, like, start with your vision. What do you want? And then go out there and find the best one that fits you.
I love
Yeah.
that. And I also want to share that when I bought my practice 10 years ago, I was offered through my lender a credit, like what do you call it? One of those
Oh, they would
a
do a
line of
line of
credit.
credit.
Yeah, so they offered me a line of credit that I could use. And I was like, okay, I mean, hopefully I'll never need it, but if I do, it's here. So that was nice. But meanwhile, actually, I could buy things on my credit card and actually have better terms than my line of credit that I had through my lender. So definitely look at that as, when you're especially starting up a practice, because gosh, the benefits could certainly roll in and you don't even realize they're out there. I have a question for you. This is crazy. I probably shouldn't ask this. I'm going to ask
You
it.
should do it.
I have a friend that said she was going to use one of her cashback cards to pay her taxes. Can you do that?
Yeah, you absolutely can. Um, I pay my quarterly taxes on a credit card. Um, Now there are fees to do it, and I think the cheapest are just a little over 2%. So you'll pay a 2% transaction fee. So I pay my quarterly estimated taxes on a credit card. Now, the way I do it is I need to be very strategic about the card that I'm using because I need to make sure when that transaction posts, the value of the rewards that I'm receiving are worth more than the percent that I'm paying in the fee. Um, so a great way to use that is say you get a new card and you have to spend $25,000 in 3 months and you've got a $20,000 tax bill due. That's a really easy way to get a quick transaction on that card to make that payment. Or maybe your card offers bonus points on larger charge amounts. So like the American Express Business Platinum card has a kicker for transactions over $5,000. Or there are some cards that offer bonus points when you do X amount of transactions in a month. So if this is another transaction or another couple of transactions you can do. So it's absolutely a viable option. I personally do it, but it's also something where you really do need to look at the value you're getting for the cash you're paying. And it could just be more than the initial rewards. Maybe there's a bonus on your card where if you spend $100,000, you get a free companion certificate or you get a free upgrade and you value that upgrade at $5,000, or you value that upgrade at something. This is where you can really start to go down the rabbit hole of trying to value and understand, does this line up with my goals? And that's what I always come back to, right? Does spending this 2.5% or 2% line up with my goal of XYZ travel rewards?
Yeah, it's a great strategy for sure. And buying time, not a bad thing.
Exactly, right? So, you're at a minimum, you're getting 25, 30 days. Like if you do a transaction right at the beginning of your statement period, that'll let you push off that actual payment due, by 30 days, or depending on when you do it, could be even longer. So that's something to keep in mind. And something that's not popular, but is available, and I really do need to put a caution on this, is there are 0% interest credit cards out there, both personal and business, and some that will have 0% interest for as long as 18 months. Now, I'm not saying that you want to do that and max that card out, and then come 18 months, you've got a balance of $30,000. You better have that $30,000 of cash sitting in your account to pay it off. But it is a potential way to get a 0% interest loan on purchases if you do need some cash flow. But again, really important to make sure that you can pay that off in full at the end. Otherwise, you're going to pay back interest on all of that. It's not like you're just going to get 1 month of interest payments. You're going to get 18 months of interest payments that you've got to pay. So be really cautious about using something like that, but it is an option.
Wow, that's a really big deal that I don't think everybody knows about. What other pitfalls that are out there that, that people stumble upon, that they're just like, oh, shoot, I didn't know that because I didn't read that, what is it, like -3 font papers that come with your agreement?
I think some things just to know about cards in general, right? And I don't really like making generalizations, so there are some exceptions, but I'm going to give you again the 80-20. What's going to happen most of the time? So your credit report. Every time you apply for a credit card, whether it's a personal card or a small business card, you're going to have to enter in a social security number. And that's the person ultimately responsible for that card. So even if you open up a small business card, it's going to ask you who's the principal responsible for this and who's able to open it up under the business name. So you'll put in your social. At that point, the bank is going to do a credit check on you. Now, there are other factors that are going to be determining whether you get approved, what your credit line is. But a thing to know, in most circumstances, that business card, once you apply for it and are approved or declined, will not show up on your personal credit report. So even if you use that card perfectly for 20 years, it's never going to be seen on your credit report, and it's not going to help your credit score. Now, I said there are exceptions. Capital One cards will show up on your credit report. There are some other banks that will do it as well. But in general, small business credit cards don't show up on your credit report unless there's a negative remark. If you miss a payment, if you don't make payments, that stuff will show up on your credit report and will impact your personal credit. And then on personal cards, right? If you don't make your payments on time, if you use too much of your credit, you'll see your credit score start to dip. So, a couple of pieces of advice on the credit side of things. Always make sure you're paying your balance in full every month. If you can't, don't ignore it. Make at least the minimum payment. The number one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to ghost your credit card company, right? They're going to get their money one way or the other. And you don't want to be paying interest on it. So make a payment. And if you can't make a payment, get the minimum in and contact them and let them know what's going on. The more you explain, the better that you have a chance of them working with you on something. But then also, when it comes to using your card, say you've got a $10,000 line of credit, you want to limit the total utilization on that card. So maxing it out every month, not a good thing. What you're better off doing is, say you've got that $10,000 limit and you've got a $6,000 charge you have to make. Okay, make the charge, but then pay that balance early. So you've got the $6,000 charge hit, pay out $4,000 of it. So your utilization is down to 20%. Really, you want to keep your utilization no more than about 30 or 40%. And the reason is one of the factors that determines your credit score, whether it's going to take a dip or it's going to continue to grow, is your credit utilization. So you want to try not to use 100%. The more you use, the more of a potential risk you become, because then the bank's not sure if you're going to be able to pay it off in full. Now, the flip side to it is the bank may issue you $50,000 of credit. That's not a bad thing. Having too much credit is not going to hurt your score. It's using too much credit, which is the risk you need to watch out from. So don't worry about those cards where you have a 30 or 40 or $50,000 available line of credit. You don't want to reduce that. There's no need to reduce it. The bank may choose to reduce it. That's up to them if you're not using it. But there's nothing negative about having that additional available credit.
That's such great advice on both sides of that coin for sure. I hope everybody heard that. If you didn't, replay it.
Yeah, well, I have a question. So a lot of dental students graduate with a ton of debt nowadays. And so many of them, which I think is so interesting, still want to own their own practices. And, usually it's within 5 years of graduation. The loan is nowhere near being paid, but they're ready to take on this new debt burden, but also these new responsibilities. And obviously there's a great upside. Would you say proper utilization of a credit card right out of the bat, maybe during dental school and after dental school, will help make you be a more attractive lendee?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, so one of the best things that a parent can do for their child is add them as an authorized user on one of their credit cards because it will help build a credit file for that person while they're an undergraduate, while they're a graduate, while they're in medical, dental school. The value there is it helps build history and shows that they have been responsible with credit. They've had access to it and they've been responsible to it. Now, the catch 22 with it is if mom or dad has not been good with their credit, it's going to show negatively on the child's account. So it's really important to actually have a card and have good utilization, have good regular payments. Even if you're just putting a daily coffee on it, or you're just putting your gas on it, or your grocery bill, you don't need to have big expenses on it. It's just to show that you can be trusted with it. And that's really what the credit report does is it says, how trustworthy is this person and how likely are they to be able to pay back their debt? And so when you do need to take out a larger loan for a practice, having a credit report with information on it does at least show some history because there's only so much you can do with, well, here's my projected business. Okay, here's the practice that I bought. Here's the business that it had in the book of business, right? So yeah, that's great from the business saying it can be successful, but can you as an individual also pay your bills on time? And so that every little bit will help. Student loans will also help as well, as weird as it may sound. Having student loans show on your credit report where you're making regular payments is a good thing, right? Yeah, we don't want to pay the interest, but it's more important to have that loan be paid on time. Otherwise, you could have that same negative impact of not paying your credit card bill.
Oh man. Young docs, associates, especially looking to buy or build a practice. So many great tips here. And Pam, I don't know, what do you think? Like in total alignment of when we've had lenders on here and coaches and people who are, guiding young docs through that whole process of preparing yourself and becoming the best lend you can be to to the big dental banks out there. So Howie, this is fantastic. I'm clearly calling you up because I need travel help. Pam.
Yeah, no, let me tell you, you won't be sorry. This poor guy, if he hasn't ghosted me yet, he's very resilient. He puts up with a lot of crap. So let me tell you, no, like Howie, you're like, there's like Rich, and then there's Howie as far as like favorite men in my life. So David, you're like next, like, let me tell you. So no, seriously, Howie, I'm grateful for you for this, for everything all the time. Where can people follow you? Where can they learn from you?
Best way to reach out to me is through my website. So it's rewardsmith.com. So instead of points and miles and all that, just reward and then smith.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for all these like beautiful little tips you gave us. I think that so many dentists out there will benefit from the recommendations that you made. And I know I certainly have. So thanks.
You're welcome.
Guys,
All right.
until next week, next episode, we hope you have a great one and tune in. Cheers. Thank you, everyone, for watching or listening to the show this week. And thanks to our guests and sponsors on this episode.
Please check out our social media at Dr. Pamela_Maragliano and at Dental Economics Official.
Or you can check me out at Ignite DDS or at Dr. David Rice.
And go to dentaleconomics.com to receive dental economics. You can choose to receive DE in print or digitally, and you can also get the details of our Principles of Practice Management conference on our website.
If you have topics or guests or anything you'd like to talk about on the show, send us an email to dentistryunmaskedpodcast@gmail.com, and we will do our very best to make it happen. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week.